It's a good evening and a warm welcome to everybody watching us here on the YouTube stream for the Raceface.Pro GT Pro Series Season 11. With me in the commentary box tonight, I have Stephen Koenig and Janeman Prius. So between the three of us, we're going to try and entertain you guys this evening and make the stream exciting to watch. And yeah, let's see how this goes tonight. Before we get kicked off and give the guys each an opportunity just to do their introductions, I have to apologize. We haven't been ready with the custom liveries this evening, unfortunately. We are still gathering those from the various teams, etc. So we promise to have those ready for round 2 of the series next week. Over to you, Stephen.
Well, I just want to say, buono diara a tutti. Welcome to Imola in Italy, and I am excited to be here for the Raceface GT3 Season 11 Round 1. And man, does it feel good to be back. Janeman, how are you feeling this evening?
Good evening, everybody. I can't say it's good to be back because I've actually never been here in the commentary box at Raceface. But really looking forward to this season. I mean, we've got some new tracks that have recently been launched on ACC that I don't think has been really used in championships before.
Yep, that's going to point to our Indianapolis in round 2, but we are now here at Imola and some impressive times being put out. We've got Cody Sherritt, who's doing a 1 minute 40.7. Now, Doe, you've had some interesting testings around Imola more than once in your racing career, well, sim racing career. I mean, these are blazingly quick. And then you've got Kieran Patterson, who's only 0.023 of a second behind. I mean, it's so close. You know, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at it here, you can actually see up to, what's that, 20th position where Christian Deploy is at the moment, split by less than 1 second, right? So the top 20 drivers in this qualifying at the moment split by a mere second. I think we are going to see some really close racing this evening. And yeah, just once again, the quality of drivers that we are seeing in the Raceface.Pro League in ACC, I reckon these are the best guys in South Africa when it comes to ACC. And I wouldn't even hesitate to say that I think they would give some of the Europeans a good run for their money.
Well, we've had many South Africans go and represent, but Janeman, you had a couple of drives around Imola on ACC, getting the hang of everything. What do the drivers have to worry about here? Is the tires going to wear out quite quickly, especially with the temperature sitting at a lovely 31 degrees? Or do you think the fuel strategy is going to be something to keep an eye out for these drivers?
Well, Stephen, I think it's safe to say that I wouldn't have been on pole, so they wouldn't have had to worry about me much. Imola, one of those tracks where car setup is an important thing, where understeer can play a huge role, and not just understeer, oversteer as well through corners like the Acqua Minerale. Acqua Minerale, one of my favorite corners, I would say, on any racetrack. That's where you can also easily lose the rear of the car. So very important to have a well-balanced car and a car that you can trust around this type of track. It's got a couple of places where you can lose a lot of time, a couple of places where you can gain a lot of time. One of those big places, the last chicane, the Variante Alta, there I figured out you can lose or gain as much as a second just through that one section of corners.
Absolutely, and also some new team shake-up as we've seen Cody Sherritt with PWSR. We've also got JW Falstig, who is busy live streaming as well under the Hybrid Academy Adrenaline team, looking to do very well this evening. Currently riding 4th place and is getting very close, but fantastic to see also the likes of Christopher Radloff, who was racing in East London last weekend in a V8 backdraft roadster with Colin Ellison, now jumping into the sim to have a bit of fun. So glad to see it there. Morgan Mccall, one of the drivers that you have to keep an eye out. Junior McCall was incredibly quick, but I felt Morgan McCall was right on the back of him for quite some time, and also got a little bit ahead. Very calm and cool headed, and he's racing with the 80k Sim Racing Pro Series team and looking to have a bit of fun here. Also, the above the 80k Pro Series with Christopher Deploy also getting involved as well. So good to see a nice shake-up of drivers, nice shake-up of teams. But now, doesn't this mean that the team dynamics change? You're a team owner of Team Tryhard Racing and also the sister team to Hybrid Academy. Isn't the shake-up going to play a little bit of a factor of calming the guys down and working together?
Well, Stephen, let me tell you one thing. There is some serious internal rivalry between the guys within the Hybrid Academy teams, you know. So, I mean, the guys, like, they do work together, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, when the chips are down and it gets down to the nitty-gritties, I think Ryan and Yervia will be racing each other very, very hard during the season as well, right? Because ultimately it is a drivers' championships. Yes, we understand there's team dynamics and there's a team championships as well. But bottom line, who do people remember? The Formula One world champion or who won the constructor championships 3 years ago, right? So, that's the whole idea, right? It's ultimately who's the fastest drivers. So tactically, the guys probably will work together, and I mean, they would be stupid not to do that. But I don't think that'll detract us from seeing some really good racing here.
That's it. And what I'm curious to see is we're putting in some fantastic times. Cody Sherritt still in first place, 1 minute 40.6. We've got Minar, who's only 0.085 seconds behind. Kieran Patterson following up in third place. J.W. Folstink currently in fourth place. Ryan Ottens in fifth. Christopher Radloff in sixth place. We've got McGregor in seventh. Pillay in eighth. Morgan Mccall in ninth, and we've also got Rayner in 10th place. Now, Rayner's been doing very, very well in the Assetto Corsa Competizione scene and been coming up through the ranks. Lovely to see him there. Also, I see that we've got a little Honda that's racing as well. Not many people pick the Honda, and that is S. Stratum going and Sean Stratum going and changing it up. Logistical Nightmare racing with the little Honda, and I take my hat off to you, sir. One of the prettiest looking cars in Assetto Corsa. Yes, I've said it. You can go and put me on a pike now, but look how amazing that car is. And I'm glad to see the LNR team coming out and ready to show off some of their racing action as well.
Steven,
sorry, go ahead, gentlemen. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Stephen. If I remember correctly, you used to race the Honda and ACC a bit.
I can neither confirm or deny.
Oh, gentlemen, I had one of my best seasons in ACC in the Raceface.Pro League with the Honda, actually. About 3 seasons ago, I actually had a very good season with the Honda. It's a car I enjoy driving. It's got, it's that whole mid-engine thing. But to be honest with you, I don't think there's a car that sounds better than the Honda in ACC.
Yeah, to be very honest with you, I've actually never driven the Honda in ACC. Stephen, yeah, thanks, Stephen. Stephen knows I'm more the big burly V8 up front kind of guy, so it's always been the cars like the Bentley, the Aston, the Merc for me.
Well, I think Sean Stratum is going to be one to keep an eye out for, and he really does know how to push the limits of fuel efficiency, and taking the Honda is going to be a very interesting choice. We've got a lot of BMs in the field. The BMWs have been ultra reliable. Guys have felt a bit more comfortable, and running over those curbs seem to be rather easy. But to everyone joining us, welcome. I see a couple of guys. We got Andre Serradio, we got PUKK also joining in, going and saying hello, Andre, which is fantastic. We got Weza in the chat as well, keeping an eye on the drivers. And also a little bit further down, Devin Delport, I see, is in the grid. Very interesting. Devin Delport has come up from the AM Class 2 Pro-Am and now into the Pros. So glad to see him and ready to have a bit of fun as well. Bernard King a little bit lower as well. Bernard King from the KSR team, the Kinetics Sim Racing Talk team, going and also looking to do have a fantastic time. It's I'm gonna say really, really exciting. We've got a stacked field, and as you said, these are the best in SA, going and sending it around and really do well. So I can't wait to see them really duke it out, go side by side, and who's going to get the honors. It's all to play for. Round 1, you want to make the most amount of points. You want to get off on a good footing and really give it everything you got without venturing off to the marshal posts that aren't too far away from the wall.
I see we've also got Luke Edison here in the chat. Welcome, Luke. It's a privilege to have you here watching the stream with us. Thank you so much. And thanks for the kind words, everybody. And if I can just ask the people that are on the stream watching, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. All right. And also smash that like button there, because it does help the YouTube algorithms and gets us up in the rankings there. So please go ahead and smash that like button. And just give us some feedback as well, whether the sound is at the right levels, if you can hear us properly, and the cars, etc. If the levels sound good, give us a bit of feedback there, everybody. Thanks.
Christian Venter venturing off into the wall. And Jan, you were talking about that earlier. You can just take one curb wrong, and unfortunately, you're going to go for one hell of a spill off the circuit. And we just saw Christian Venter, unfortunately, doing that, dropping a wheel onto the dirt and sending it towards the wall. Fortunate enough not to go and bump it as well. Very, very easy to do, pushing it on the edge the whole time. It's one of those tricky ones.
Yeah, the margin of error is not a lot. I mean, especially the section that Grobler went through earlier, that Villeneuve chicane. I mean, it's a constantly slowing chicane. You go in quite quickly. Also a chicane where you can lose the rear of the car very easily. Just quickly want to send out a special a special shout out. I received a message from our fellow commentator, Mr. Alan Patterson, saying that he misses Herbie.
Aww. I remember Herbie was the car that you hated, but I loved.
Yeah. For those who don't know, I did one season of the Raceface GT3 Pro series. I raced the Porsche, and Alan still did that livery where he painted it like Herbie with chrome bumpers and everything. Now, for the people wondering where Alan is, he's decided to take a bit of a break, decided to swap his microphone for a steering wheel a bit, and he's racing a bit again. But Stephen, I believe he'll be back for the Endurance Series.
Yep, and we're looking forward to having him back on air for the Endurance Series and going and showing it how to have a bit of fun on the mic. But he is currently racing in the Pro-Am class. But Do, why don't you take us through who is sitting where, considering we've only got 2 minutes and 23 seconds left of this qualifying session here at Imola.
Yeah, so currently I'm sitting in pole. We have Cody Sherritt with a 1 minute 40.535 over there, followed very closely by basically a tenth of a second there between him and Pierre Minard. And Kieran Patterson, 0.02 of a second behind Minard. Going further down, we have Javier Volschkenk, followed by Bego Grobler and Ryan Ottens. That is the Hybrid Academy trio there at the top, in the top 5. And going further down, we have Chris Radloff, McGregor, Mccall. We can just keep going down this list here. But as I mentioned to you guys earlier, top 20 split by less than 1 second.
I mean, that's incredibly close. And you think about it, as you brought up, the margin of error. These guys are running low fuel at the moment, maximizing tires and fuel just to be able to, send it all the way to the top. But it's going to be interesting come the race. Will they be able to sustain this pace in the duration? I mean, we're working with an hour and 30 minutes, to really fight it out. And it's going to be a difficult one to be within a second of your competitor and try not get tunnel vision. I mean, Jan, you guys have had this moment where you guys have gotten close. You've been in someone's toe, and you've actually had it here at Imola as well, where you get a little bit of tunnel vision. What do the drivers have to do, or the team managers have to remind the drivers to do when you in that close little tussle, especially at the start of the race where adrenaline's up? You want to go for those positions, but you're not thinking about the 3rd, 4th, 5th, or maybe the 17th lap going into the race.
The main thing is, and just to say, I've spent a lot of time behind Do. When you're driving so closely behind a car in front of you, there's one thing that you need to keep in mind. When you see those brake lights, it's too late. So it is sometimes very difficult to spot brake markers, and sometimes you just have to dial your brake markers back a little bit, because otherwise there will be contact. Now, you were talking about strategies and that type of thing, and it will be interesting to see what the guys are going to do. Are they going to fuel long to open up their strategy a bit, or are they going to, try and lighten up the car a bit to get a bit more pace out of it?
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. When you're sitting right behind the guys, drafting, etc. You just got to keep in mind about those brake markers and things like that as well. Like you said, Stephen, it's a long race, hour and 30 minutes. Don't do stupid things. It's not really a sprint race. This it's almost a mini endurance as well. So yeah, just keep things clean. I just want to quickly shout out there to Altman Live. Altman, you're asking if there is someone doing private streams for Pro-Am. You're welcome to go and visit the Team Tryhard Racing YouTube channel. There's a couple of guys there, Hansi, and a couple of the guys that do stream to the Team Tryhard Racing YouTube channel. So you can just do a search for Team Tryhard Racing, and you'll be able to go and see some onboard footage of that race for the Pro-Am guys. All right, I think that concludes our qualifying. I think the guys are just basically finishing up their laps now, and then we'll be moving into race time.
That's it. The excitement starts to build. The butterflies start to kick in, and it's the final time to get those incredible laps in or to try and hold your position. And, well, it's going to be an interesting one. I think that all the drivers have now pushed as hard as they can. They've got to gauge what the rest of the field are doing. And from there, look at trying to forward and how they're going to, improve during the course of the race. It's not an easy thing to do. You got to consider it's a long run, and the drivers are going to be planning it out to the absolute T of what's going to happen. So it's going to be a very, very interesting run.
Yes, Stephen, this for me is absolutely the worst part of any race, where you're sitting on this grid for this is almost 3 minutes, and you're sitting and waiting for that formation lap to begin.
Well, during this time, I'd like to just a shout out to our sponsors that made this all possible. So big shout out to Raceface.Pro Shop, Resource Complete, Go Setups, 9-5, and Speed Labs for making this all possible. Big shout out to them. And please go and visit our sponsor, Speed Labs, if you want to go and get some incredible pace and to get the likes of Mr. Legendary Sherritt, not Cody Sherritt, Jordan Sherritt, and go and see how you can become one of the fastest sim racers. And maybe try your hand out on some international and come join us here. Also, Go Setups if you're looking to improve your setups. If you battle like me, I battle with setups on cars. The guys are able to get out there and really put on a fantastic show. So go take a look at them. It's always fantastic to see what they can do. So please go and investigate, go and see them. And we look forward to them joining us for the duration of this season. So as our drivers lined up on the line, ready to go, Cody Sherritt in first place, Philip Minnar in second, Kieran Patterson in third, Ryan Ottens in fourth place. They are going to be staring down the barrel of a gun, heading into turn one. So they're going to gently go around, get some heat into those tires, and also figure out where they can warm up those tires and brakes. And this is what gives you the perfect opportunity to suss out where the circuit goes, where you can try and get one up on your competition. And the sighting lap has always been one thing to keep an eye out for. These drivers tend to run the race line, see where they go, and where they can try and make up some ground during the course of the race and feel out what the car's actually doing. So, guys, let's start with Doe. Doe, explain us through the mentality that you got to have for the sighting lap.
So thanks for catching me nicely off guard there, Stephen. I don't know if you guys noticed. Sorry, guys, I had to restart the connecting to the server. I couldn't click on drive, so that means I can't connect to you guys to show you the actual race. But let me answer the question at the same time, right? What do I do during the sighting lap? I just try and avoid the guys around me and be front of me. I know we ghost in the ACC, that it's not really a problem. That's the first thing. But I hate ghosting. I wish that's one thing they would actually take out of ACC. It's pretty much the whole trick in terms of getting those tires warmed up, right? So, it's just really trying as best as you can to get those tires to operating temperatures before the start of the race. Various techniques are used by that, acceleration and braking in low gears, etc. Weaving a little bit, that type of stuff. So that's what the guys are primarily going to be doing during the sighting laps to try and get those tire temps at the right levels.
All right, and Jan, from your point of view, what would the drivers that you think can utilize at this point?
Very similar to what Doe said. I also use a lot of acceleration and braking. I also tend to ride the brakes a bit to get heat into the brakes, because the last thing you want at turn 1 is to brake and nothing happens. I mean, that's where accidents happen. And call it getting into the zone. I mean, you're getting ready for the race to start. You're trying to calm yourself a bit, because you've just been sitting for 3 minutes or so on the grid waiting for the formation lap to start, and hope you don't bin it.
So I also wanted to just chip in here and say to the guys on the chat are having a good laugh at us only having black cars on the grid this evening, right? So they were saying that most definitely a black car will win this evening, which I think is going to be the case, seeing that everybody's got a black car. But maybe just to explain to the viewers what's actually going on here. So Raceface actually supports custom liveries on the cars, so the guys can actually paint their cars in the way they feel fit, obviously within certain parameters, but they typically have their sponsor logos and things like that on the cars. There are some professional teams here with actual corporate sponsorship for their teams. And then, unfortunately, for this race this evening, we weren't given the liveries in time to load them onto the production PC, etc. But I promise everybody, Daniel, you included, next race, I promise you, all the liveries will be there in all their glory, and you guys can show it off. I have seen some of the liveries, and they are really, really looking very sexy.
That's it. Artwork on cars will be in for the next one. But the guys starting to get a little bit more of a feel. Well, you guys talk about, accelerating and braking to warm up the tires. I actually coast, because if you guys, for people that don't know, if you go and use your clutch or you shut your car down, you actually don't use fuel. But the problem is you've got to stop and try and restart the car. So don't turn your car off. But taking your foot off the throttle and coasting, you can save a bit of fuel, which a lot of people tend to burn off during this formation lap. Now that they're starting to make their way through the final corner, you're going to see that all lined up. This is where they get told 70 k's an hour, no faster, and you have to try and keep that speed limit and keep within it. So no jump start here, otherwise it is going to hurt of note. Lined up on line, Cody Sherritt. Let's see what he'll be able to do. Will he have the advantage into turn 1, or will Philip Minnaar be able to defend? Keep an eye on Kieran Patterson as he is hunting down, looking to try and take that first place away as fast as possible. And one guy who absolutely just licked it and sent it right down the middle.
I think that was a disconnect, obviously, for my side.
That was a proper drag race to the line there. But, ladies and gentlemen, round number 1 hour and 20 minutes, and away we go. Green, green, green. Will Cody Sherritt be able to do it? He's going on the defensive, goes to the middle of the circuit. You can see Minnaar trying to get into the toe, and we've got Kieran Patterson going on the outside, trying to curve his way around.
Yeah, it looks like we're going quite clean there through turns 1 and 2, Stephen.
Very, very close racing as the guys side by side trying to make their way through the corners. But take a look at Sherritt already starting to pull a bit of a gap. A little bit further down, though, we've got Kieran Patterson, who's feeling the pressure, trying to keep and maintain that third place. Christopher Radloff, who's running in 6th place, trying to make his way around, but having some difficulty there.
Yeah, I saw there was a little bit of contact pushing the car wide onto the gravel, and as soon as you are in that gravel, it's going to hurt. Most probably falling back to almost last place.
And definitely not what you want to have, and try and get back on the track as soon as possible. But you can see Christopher Radloff laying the pressure onto the back of Ryan Ottens, already in lap 1, trying to figure out how he can go, but that's giving Morgan Mccall and the train behind him a chance to close down on them. So 8th place now, really pulling himself along. So let's take a look at what's going to happen. Then you've got Bego Krobler, who is on a charger of note. Sujin Pillay going out very, very wide, and you can see how you can lose so much time when you go and mess up right at the last section of Imola.
Yeah, that's killed his drive all the way down to the last 2 Ravazza corners, and losing out just due to a bad exit out of the chicane.
That's it, and you've just got to try and figure out now, where do you go? How do you improve? What needs to be done as you charge your way around this fantastic circuit? But remember, they are going to be racing nose to tail, and you've got to look at how long you can run it. It is going to be a tough one. 3 in this circuit, 69 years old, definitely poses one difficult run, but also just to note, it's 4.9 kilometers long. You've got to try and keep those tires and that fuel in perfect order and see how long you can stretch it. 1 hour and 20 minutes is not an easy run, especially sitting in a rig. Lots of focus is needed to be able to climb your way to the top.
Stephen, as you discussed, in a long race like this, definitely strategy comes into play. In the beginning of the race, what I normally do is I try and suss out the pace of the guys around me, because I might be in a position where the guys around me are either quicker or slower. Then you need to decide: are you gonna fight them for that position, or are you gonna let them go and let them run their race so that you can run your race?
Nice little 5-way battle going on, yeah?
Trying to have a good run, but Morgan Mccall in a bit of a battle of note, trying to go defensive, doesn't know which way to go, middle, left or right. He is getting hunted down. That Mercedes, unfortunately, not having the top end on the rest of the field. Maybe he's got a little bit more in aero, hard on the brakes, but Morgan unfortunately dropping down a position. That's allowed JW Volstig to go and sneak on by and really start putting the hammer down to try to pull away from the ATK Sim Racing Pro Series driver. And very interesting to see how hard he's trying to do it. Bego Krobler of the Hybrid Academy in the Audi, trying to figure out where he can go and get some pace from, as he gets chased down by McGregor and Rayner, who are very, very close behind. Rayner still keeping a good pace, and Rayner also in the Audi having a bit of fun out there. So let's keep an eye on how it's going to go a little bit further down the field. But Jason McGregor really having a difficult time. You can see how far he's trying to get that car out of the corners. Late on the brakes goes Rayner, but wow, Jason having to go extremely defensive and nearly had an Audi inviting right into the boot. That set Rayner for a world of hurt, as Mauer is all over the back of him.
Yeah, that killed his drive coming out of Aqua Minerale, and allowed Mauer to close up and come and join the party and in the battle.
That's it. Mauer now trying to keep up the pace, really doing everything he can, with Pillay trying to close down on him as well. So the drivers are starting to get a little bit more settled in now. As you can see, the pit window is open, allows the drivers to come in and do a little bit of a fuel stop and go. A couple of guys opting to do it, going for a very, very early stop, trying to make sure they go and fill those engine, or fill the tanks up 120 liters in these GT3 cars, and see what they'll be able to do. Sijin Pillay, part of the Hybrid Academy Apex team, pulling in and battling to get in the box slightly. It is very, very tricky, but looks like majority of the back end of the field coming into the pits, going for an early stop.
I wonder if this was not a stop and go penalty for a false start at the start of the race potentially, but I don't see anything that has come up on the timing boxes here. Let's quickly have a look and see. I can't see that there were any penalties actually given out, but I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, what about 6 cars coming into the pit lane and doing what almost looks like a stop and go?
A little bit splash and dash, maybe.
Well, the other thing might also be only speculating there. There might have been a bit of damage on the car, and that had to be repaired because with 1 hour and 13 minutes still to go, I mean, this is touch and go to fuel it to the end of the race.
Well, that's when you lift coast and you hope that the BP station is very, very close by. But one person who's not worrying about fuel at the moment, or even worrying about damage, is Morgan Mccall on a charge, running in 7th place, going after Volsnik, doing everything he can to try and keep in that tow. Notice how he's mimicking the lines, trying to utilize that slipstream as much as possible, and try and carry his way through. Will it be enough? As you can see, just hasn't got the top end. Kieran Patterson, though, in 3rd place. Nice little drive for him.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned it. Even in the slipstream, the Mercedes is struggling to keep with the BMW.
Yeah, and I see what I'm liking this season, gentlemen, is a variety of manufacturers on the grid for a change. It's not just BMWs wherever you look, right? I mean, we've got some Mercs obviously in there. Obviously, a lot of BMWs, but there's a Honda, there's a Bentley, there's an Aston Martin, and obviously a couple of Audis. But I really like that. I like to see the different manufacturers racing against each other. So it does look like at least, Kunos has maybe sorted out the BOP on the cars a little bit because, I mean, last season was effectively a one-make series, almost, if you think about it.
Yeah, I can remember when the BMW just came to ACC. I mean, more than half of the field was driving BMWs, and it was very quick.
It worked better than the Bentley, that's all I'm saying.
Well, I converted from the Bentley to the BMW.
Kieran Patterson's still on a charge, going after Minard, not breaking down that gap all too well. So guys are really having to work hard. Morgan Mccall still battling. Now, I wonder if he's put a little bit too much on the aero side. He closes down through the corners, but soon as he gets onto that main straight, he's a dead duck at this point, trying to catch up. Any thoughts there, guys?
Well, the other thing, it might be aero on the one side. The other thing is it might be that he's got more fuel on board than Volskenk has got.
That's something to also consider. We go to Nicholas Manuel, who's in a bit of a chase as well. He's going after Barkhays and trying to mimic all the way through. Looks to the outside, has the door closed on him, tries on the inside, but a little bit too far to send it. Just ask George Russell. And, having a good run there. So well done to Nicholas Manuel, still keeping up the pace, putting in some good times. But while he's in this charge, it's allowed Mayer to slowly close down as well. So the difficulty is once you're in a bit of a battle with everyone, it does slow you up because you're constantly defending or attacking.
Nicholas Manuel putting himself right under the wing of that Audi.
Let's see, on the run up to Aqua Minerale and then to the chicane, how close they're going to be.
You can see Barkhazen using all the circuits, and he's got to be careful that the sim doesn't issue him a track limits warning, which can unfortunately land you up in a little bit of hot water. But
as a Mercedes mysteriously appears and disappears in between them.
You never
I thought there was
no, go ahead.
Go, Janneman.
No, I saw the Merc mysteriously appear there. We've got a ghost car on track.
They'll never suspect the Spanish Inquisition. And that's definitely what happened going there. But take a look at Barkhazen, able to pull away at the bottom end of Imola, getting onto the straight. So what has Nicholas Manuel got to do for ZA Racing M4 try and close down that gap? Any ideas, guys? So you have how late is braking late to get round on the drivers?
Approaching to turn 1, I don't know if you saw that there in the back of the screen, there's that little road that runs into the track. For me, that's the latest comfortable braking point for turn 1. And you just hope you're the last of the late breakers if you want to make the pass at that point.
Side-by-side action as we go in car. Manuel trying to go on the outside. You can see how he's having to fight the car. Oh, looks like a bit of collection there with Mayer, who sends him down. So unfortunately, that has not helped the case. Nicholas Manuel.
Let's see if we can have a look at that replay there. Let's see. Oh yes, there we go. Coming out of that turn.
It looks like the back end of that BMW got a bit loose on corner exit, sending him into the Audi.
That's a bit unfortunate. Now there's a little bit of error work that needs to be done. The guys at BMW are going to be keeping an eye on that and see where they can fix the car. But we all know once the front end gets a little bit of a knock on it, braking hard and trying to do late maneuvers, that car is just going to start understeering on you. So, you know, Nicholas is under some serious pressure. But I take a look at Russell, who's got a drive-through penalty a little bit further down as well. But Mayer going on the outside now, trying to brake as late as he can. But
contact, we have contact.
De Vet going and braking extremely late as well. Unfortunately, bouncing off the back of that Audi.
Yeah, the BMW going
Manual,
into pit because...
Yeah, that I think was De Vet, right? Flipping into the pits there.
Yeah, no, that was Manuel.
I saw
on the
run down to Rivatsa that BMW was hurting on top end speed and acceleration.
That's the thing, you've got a lot of understeer to battle with it now, so as the guys can go through. But take a look, Bernard King in the Aston Martin. He has not left that car since he started racing Assetto Corsa Competizione, now in a battle of his own, where he's got the yellow banana of Mr. Fenter, who's having a great bit of fun there, and also looks like Kirstein looking to try and take a run up on Bernard King. So Bernard, an optician, looking to try and keep going. Now having a bit of a battle with Kirstein right next to him, just reminding that the BM can be a force to reckon with, but the old reliable Aston still showing that it's one to keep going and have a good drive in if you want to get into the world of Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Eric Kirsten making a good pass there and making it stick. And I see he's now in the hunt there for Fenter, so Kirsten is on the move.
Now, you mentioned he's been driving the Aston Martin since he started, and in front of him, Paul. I mean, Paul's been with the Bentley now for a couple of years, I think. And what it allows you to do, if you stick to the same car, it allows you to develop that car around you, and you get so used to that car that it doesn't matter what the balance of performance is, you tend to stick to that car because you've developed it to such a point where that remains the car that you're the quickest in.
That's it. Eric Kirstein of the Team Tryhard looking to go on the outside. Let's see what's going to have the better legs, the big Bentley, or is it going to be the BM late on the brakes?
Very late on the brakes there.
Kirstein tries his luck, but just gets the door absolutely slammed shut with the trailer door locking behind it as well, as Fenter is more than happy to go away. But take a look at Bernard King, also looking to go late on the brakes, opts rather to be safe on it and not going for the lunge. So very interesting racing here, a little bit down in the mid pack, but absolutely fantastic to see. 1 hour and 5 minutes into the race, and you can swear these guys are racing for the final race of the championship, looking for the honors. They are going tooth and nail, folks.
Yeah, this is some really exciting racing here, Stephen, I must say. For race 1 of the season, the gloves are off. You can see that.
Gloves are off, first race of the season, and you stamp down your authority, find out who will be the guys you'll be racing against in the rest of the championship. So Steve and I would say the first race of the season just as important as the last championship deciding race.
You want to try and stamp your name, as you said. Create the legacy now rather than later. And Kieran Patterson still right behind Minor, but has closed down the gap 0.8 of a second and is on a brutal charge to try and close it down. So let's see if you'll be able to do it. Kieran Patterson of the PWSR team had a great run the sprint series last night, and looking to go and carry on that same great run a little bit further into this pro class of the GT3 Championship, Season 11, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe that? 11 seasons done so far. Well,
Yeah.
currently on the 11th season. I mean, that's a hats off to the organizers who's able to keep us going, and hats off to the community that still wants to have a great run with these cars.
Yeah, for the viewers, maybe give you a bit of history around Raceface. So Raceface started probably towards the end of 2017, I think, and it was basically myself, Bertus, Paul Gerber, Bago, basically 5 or 6 of us that started racing against each other in F1 2017, I think at the time, going into 2018. And really that was, I think in 2018, more or less, where Kuno started announcing the ACC platform. Obviously everything was running on a regular Assetto Corsa, if you could call it that. And so Raceface had its beginnings all the way back in 2018, Stephen, when we were literally between 15 and 20 cars in total on the grid, right? For the entire, that was the size of our community. And yeah.
Sorry, having said all that now, how do you feel knowing that there are 3 other divisions with just as many cars racing at this very moment?
Yeah. Well, I think if I was Bertus Sichu, I'd be immensely proud of what I've achieved here. I mean, this is really, he's built something phenomenal, if I can, say that. So all kudos to Bertus. He has a lot of good people around him. He has a lot of people helping him out with the league, etc. So it isn't just a one-man show. I think we have to make mention that there are people that assist in running the league from an administrative perspective. But ultimately, it's Bertus's baby. So all congratulations to him for making it what it is today. And yeah, Stephen, season 11.
It's amazing, as we just saw Eric Kirstein, though, getting a little bit elbows out with Paul Fenter, and giving the Bentley a little bit of a love tap as they make their way through. So a little bit of aggressive maneuvers, but fortunately both drivers are able to keep it going. But the winner of that one was Bernard King, who just kept a reasonable gap, kept his nose clean, and was able to make his way through. Now, Jan, I mean, this is where Kirstein's deciding to go a lot more aggressive. He's turning that dial to 11 now, early on in the race, to try and close down. Do you think that maybe he feels that he's got the pace to close down on the likes of Devet and pull everyone along, or is he trying to separate himself for a better pit stop strategy?
It can be a combination of both. I mean, maybe he felt like he was getting held up a bit behind them and he could run a quicker pace. So he reached that point where he decided, it's now or never. I need to make a move in order to pull out a gap, either to catch the guys in front, or as you said, as we see, who was that going into the pits?
It's Burnsy King. It's Burnsy King dropping into the pits there. Yeah.
So obviously he might have, it might be a change of strategy as you dive into the pits. We're only 20 minutes into the race, so it might have been that he short-fueled that car at the beginning of the race to take a longer second stint.
It does look like a full-service pit stop, so it's obviously not a penalty or anything, but it looks like a bit of a splash and dash that was done there.
Just clean the windscreen, change the tires, have something to drink. The full works, turn the aircon on just to cool you down a little bit. When the sim world, it's full immersion. This is when you get sweaty and your hands are digging into that steering wheel because, man, that pit limiter is just too slow as you watch the field come by. And that's exactly what Bernard King has just felt.
And how sweet that does that V8 sound.
I love this car. I used to race it a long time before I switched over to the Bentley. I believe, Stephen, we also did a 24-hour in this very same Aston Martin.
And I see they haven't fixed the windscreen wiper, because if anyone notices, as he goes through the corners, the windscreen wiper moves and rattles. Thank you, Kunos, for going and showing that the windscreen wipers aren't bolted on properly. We've got to say, they've laser scanned these cars. They've got them to an absolute perfection. Inside, the sounds, they've really done some awesome work to model these cars after the real GT3 cars. But I could do without the QC problems of the Aston Martin with a floppy windscreen wiper. I would really appreciate that.
But Stephen, it's a British car, right? It wouldn't be a British car if it didn't have 1 or 2 flaws at least, right?
3, 4, 5, 6. You want to keep going? MG and Leyland really showed what they could do, and the early days of Land Rover, there wasn't oil on the ground, there wasn't oil in your engine. One to keep an eye out for is Sean Stradham. Now, his usual tactic, for anyone that has raced against him will know the absolute frustration of it, is Sean Stradham will run that car till it's empty. And I mean, he will get there into the last 10 minutes of a race and then pit, or maybe the last 5 minutes of the race. He will just push that car right to the brink of it, running on a rag that has been dumped in fuel, and it's now sniffing the fumes to keep going. I don't know how he does it, but keep an eye on him. Lying in 13th place, he's right behind Justin Lotus and looking to try and make a move. He's under pressure from De Vet, but I'm wondering, will it be enough? Will he be able to go for that long stint, and will it be helpful going that longer run? Because we've just broken into the 57 minute mark, and this is where you start asking your team lead, your race boss, your teammates. I would say competitors, but your teammates. What's the fuel plan? What's the strategy? What are we going to do? Are we going to run it till we have disco lights on our dash that's telling us that maybe we should go and pull in, because E is not for enough. That's for certain. It's enough for when the engine stops.
And I think all of us commentating here have run out of fuel at one point or another.
I was just sitting and thinking, gentlemen, Burnsy going in and just doing a little... I wonder if there's a strategy for some of the guys to, as we saw earlier, also quite a few guys went in at quite an early stage of the race where they actually fuel very low for the start of the race, potentially do an early pit stop, and then that middle stint is a very long stretch, and then they just do another splash and dash towards the end of the race again, instead of splitting it into exactly 3 different, how can I say, stages of the race. So it's interesting. Maybe the guys are trying some, different strategies this season.
Well, that's it. Trying to get one up on the competition and use whatever you can. Sean Stradham looking to go side by side, late braking. Will the Honda be able to do it though? Hard on the brakes, just gets by. Man,
beautifully done.
You couldn't get any closer if you tried. I don't think you can put a Uno card between all 3 of those cars going through their very, very difficult run. But let's see if De Vet will be able to try get by him. He goes late on the brakes, but right behind De Vet is Kirstein. And also right behind Kirstein, a name that people would recognize from the sim world into the real world, back into the sim world now, is Jonathan Mahotsi, who's from the Super Cup, that races in Super Cup, done very, very well. Pranked a few cars as well during his time, so he knows where the limits are of these vehicles. He knows how to drive them, also knows how to defend very well. So I'm going to keep an eye on Mahotsi chasing down Kirstein. So guys, don't take your eyes off there. He is one to keep an eye out for, and really showing what he can do in the sim world and the real world by getting that checkered flag more than once.
Heinrich De Vet now being chased hard, I see here, by Eric, it seems. Is it Eric? No, it can't be. That's an Audi there behind him. My timing screen, it seems, has gone a little bit wonky. But we are seeing some really close racing between these 3 drivers now.
I mean, we're not only seeing 2 car battles, we're seeing 3, 4, 5 car battles developing throughout the field.
And this is where it gets a bit interesting for the guys. They have to try and figure out where is it going to be the best opportunity to get by, and how they're going to, where the pit stops are going to be. Nobody knows. It's going to be an interesting running, but they can look. I think that Audi is out of place.
Yeah, it's a back marker. Yeah, he's a back marker.
It's a back. Well, I wouldn't say back marker, because at this moment he is really hunting down to get by. So Heinrich is feeling the pressure from a blue flagged vehicle, but one thing it's doing is filling up those review mirrors of note. And we all know, and for anyone that's sim racing, or if you're sitting in traffic, if you drive, you've got cars in your review mirrors keeping a huge amount of pressure on you. You're constantly watching them, even though you subconsciously saying, we're not in a battle, we're not in a fight, leave me alone. You're watching them the whole time, and that takes your eye off the ball and where your brake, you can miss a brake marker. If you miss it by 50 meters or 5 meters, well, you're going to go and do some farming, lay some trees on Imola, as well as you venture off to say how's it to the spectators on the grandstands.
Yeah, it's not a, even though it's not a battle for position, you were talking about missing your own brake markers, but there is that thought in the back of your mind, is he hitting his brake markers? Is he going to slam into the back of me? So it's constantly taking your mind off what is important, and that's focusing on the race ahead of you.
That's it, and we go on Nkube, who's having a great run as well. Glad to see him out going and having a bit of fun. Also been getting better and better every season, so glad to see now in the pros and really having a fun time. I mean, check how close the racing is. The guys have been going flat out so far. Only 52 minutes left of the race, and it's still nose to tail up and down the field. And this is always fantastic to see. This is what racing is all about. Doesn't matter where you are, as long as you can have a good battle with one another. And I mean, this is where you can go back and have a chat to the guys and say, man, I nearly had you through here. And what these drivers will do, they'll go back and have a chat with one another. They'll get a little bit of a debrief of, where were you braking? How late were you braking? Or, just trying to get a little bit of strategy to the whole thing as well. So it's lovely to see it. But one person who's on a definite charge, Heinrich, still doing everything he can, hunting down the back of Lotus at the moment, who's just soaking up the pressure and more than happy to just keep going. At this situation, you just want to try and keep the pace, follow around, and not get involved too much in a battle. Try and utilize the slipstream, save a bit of fuel. Why not?
Yeah, if that can extend your stint or be to an advantage in your strategy, why not? But believe me, these guys, their heads are constantly busy doing the calculations, and if they've got somebody on the pit wall that they can speak to, I mean, if they're in a tight battle and they feel like they're losing pace, they will be on that team radio, so to call it, and asking the person to do some calculations. Can't they maybe do a pit stop and get out into cleaner air and see if they can, maybe move forward and do a type of undercut to the cars in front of them? But we've been going now for, say, half an hour, and I mean, just look at how close the racing still is and how close this field is still running.
Yeah, and I see Christopher Radloff was just put in the fastest lap of the race. He did a 1:41.312 in race pace. That is very quick.
That is still quicker than my quickest ever lapper in a GT3 car around Imola by more than a second.
Yeah, same here.
Well, that's mega pace right there. I will not talk about my pace because I will now uninstall the game. Well, uninstall the sim because
sell your steering wheel, everything.
Yeah.
And just stick to the commentary, Stephen.
Yeah, that's it. But taking a look also at the comments, we got a lot of support. Daniel Rose say, "Come on, Hottens." Oh, so there's a little bit of a love interest there, Daniel, you want to talk about? Also, Jordan Sherritt going and supporting his brother. Let's go, Cody. So proud of him, improved so much in a short space of time. And I have to say, that is a definite. Cody has really put in the time, put in the pace, and is having a great bit of fun there. Also representing PWSR as he charges his way around the circuit. So definitely some very, very interesting battles throughout the field, but also great enjoyments for the likes of Cody Sherritt, who had a good run at the start, opened up that gap. He's now 2.8 seconds ahead of Philip Minnar, and now starting to make his way through the field as well.
Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You don't want to get in, make an unnecessary move past the field. Unfortunately, you're gonna fall off the circuit very, very quickly. But as it looks like our LNR team have moved out the way, Sean just going and saying, I'm not going to get involved in this, opens up a door, lets him go through, and keeps up the pace. So glad to see a little bit of decorum between the guys. They understand where the race is. They all want to go and finish. And Cody just making his way through. Got to keep it nice and tidy, but not lose too much time, because Philip Minnaar will try close down that gap. We've all seen it before. Philip Minnaar has been that silent assassin in more than one race, and looking to try and do it once again. But now I've got to ask you guys as well. You know, as we jump on board with Cody, he makes his way through. You now starting to make your way through the traffic. You trying to figure out, okay, am I going to lose too much time trying to battle it out, go for, lunges? I'm going to start off, Doe. What do you think of this? What would be the mindset you have to go in where you cling through traffic and still trying to maintain a blinding pace?
It's Stephen. There's one thing. It's being able to be quick. That's one thing you need in racing, obviously, right? Is you need to be quick. But it's also important to know how to pass, in especially GT racing, slower cars on the track, right? Because managing traffic is basically part of GT racing, right? I mean, whether you are being lapped or you are the person lapping the other cars. If you don't know how to do that safely while not losing a lot of time, you can be the fastest guy on the track on an empty track. Once there's traffic and cars around you, it's where the racecraft really starts counting.
And Janeman, you've also been in these situations where you've trying to make your way through. You're under some serious pressure. I mean, Philip Minnaar already 2.2 seconds behind, closed down that gap quite quickly to Cody. What will be going through your mind now? You're starting to hear your crew chief saying the guy's catching while you're maneuvering your way through traffic.
There's actually a lot of things going on. I mean, these guys are doing constant calculations while they are driving. Cody would obviously, he would notice that he's gaining, but he will also have a look at his deltas on the cars that he's gaining up on. So he's trying to calculate how much time is it going to take for him to catch up to the car or the next lap car. Would it be better to pit maybe, or you even go into the finer details of where on track you might catch that car. Might you catch it into a difficult part like they're going through now, through Aqua Minerale, leading on to the last chicane? Or might I catch that car, during the final two corners onto the pit straight, where I might actually not lose any time passing that car. I might actually gain time by sitting in the slipstream and passing it in turn one.
That's it. And Eric Kirstein having a great run through Aqua Minerale. I can't say that name. Definitely. I am not Italian. I do apologize. But Eric Kirstein having a great run there of Team Tryhard Hot Stuff. And a little bit of a plug there of Team Tryhard Racing. Your guys have been working incredibly hard to try and improve and really take the fight to the front end. Any ideas of the strategies that they might be utilizing as we see Kirstein coming into the pits at 45 minutes left of the race? Any ideas on the strategies, or is it top secret, hush hush, only 007 and Q are able to let us know?
I have to be quite honest with you, Stephen, and let you know that Hansi Myberg is almost co-team principal for Team Tryhard Racing. And really, Hansi has taken over most of the reins when it comes to the ACC side of our sim team. Obviously, Team Tryhard Racing, we compete in both Assetto Corsa Competizione as well as in iRacing. We've got a bunch of guys doing iRacing and obviously a bunch of guys doing ACC. So we decided as a team to kind of split that team principal role between myself and Hansi. So Hansi is the guy that would know what the strategies and things are exactly. But if I can make one comment, what I'd like to say is, is that Eric has had a massive improvement over the last 3 seasons, right? I would say 4 seasons ago, Eric had a bit of a reputation on the track for being a bit of one of the guys that's the dive bomber, and he's always hitting people and things like that. And that's the whole idea behind being part of a team, right? Is to take people and groom them, and obviously give them the support they need to become better drivers overall. And one thing I can say is I'm really, really proud to see how much Eric has improved over the last 3 seasons. That he's now at least the mid, top tier, top 10 kind of pace within the Raceface League. So overall, great job by Hansi and the guys over there.
Well, just taking a look, we so far got 3 that have completed their mandatory pit stops. Now, for everyone that's watching the stream, you'll see down our little timetable, you'll see there's 2s and 1s and they're in orange. That is how many pit stops they are yet to do. They have a mandatory of 2 pit stops that they need to do. And that is to try and split it up as much as possible. It also brings the racing a lot closer. It used to be that you can do 1 pit stop. They now moved it to 2, which I think is a great thing for the drivers. Got to think a little bit more, and you can't really give it everything you got. But so far we've got C. Falschnick, who's sitting in 29th position, H. Mayer and A. Russell, who are the only ones who have completed all 3 pit stops. Might be a little bit early though, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. And Heinrich de Wet still putting a lot of pressure on, and we also go to Ryan Ottens. That's you have to really add everything. Damn, Daniel, you've now sunk that in my brain of Ryan Ottens now in a bit of a battle.
And I'm watching the chat here on the stream between Daniel Rowe and Jordan Sherritt. And oh, by the way, for anybody that's watching, Daniel Rowe, Jordan Sherritt, real world racing drivers, guys. Jordan doing a bit of a stint in the States at one point in his life in the past. Daniel currently GT3 racer for Volkswagen Motorsport. So yeah, top tier racing drivers that are part of the Raceface.Pro sim racing scene. All right, so Jordan not taking part in these races anymore. He does more the endurance series and those type of things. I've seen Jordan being one of the top drivers actually in the world nowadays, competing in international leagues and international series. I see they're having a chat here to say how quick Cody has become, and that Jordan says that he was never as quick as Jody when he started. So probably thinking, Jody soon enough might just be challenging him. And also making comments around the amount of time and effort. Daniel saying the amount of time and effort it takes to get to this level in sim racing. And I think you guys will know. I mean, it's to be in the pro league, and to be in the top 5 or 6 of the drivers, you have to be putting in at least 2 hours a day of practice.
Yeah, this is not even hundreds and hundreds of laps. This is thousands and thousands of laps that these guys are putting in. I mean, in the background there you see Paul Fenter. I had a chat with Paul a couple of years ago when I was starting out in sim racing, and I was putting in, I said to him at one stage a couple of years ago, I would like to put in at least 100 laps worth of practice or preparation for a race. And Paul turned around and said to me, 100 laps is one good practice session for me. So
Yep.
That's the amount of work that these guys are putting in.
Yep, definitely, and they are at the top of their game. And I mean, and I think Stephen, you could probably relate to this. Stephen also does some real world racing every now and then, and just maybe give us your comment there around how much time and effort you guys have to put in, compared to this.
I can tell you, it's easier to race in IRL versus sim. You've got the sense of speed. You can feel the G forces. You can you get the pucker effect, where if you brake too late into a corner, your body lets you know that maybe it was a little bit too close.
Overzealous
as you go through. But in sim racing, you know, to get to this level, as you said, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, and you get the likes of Christopher Radloff, who's putting in some fantastic times, but he's a real world racer. Jonathan Mccall, down in 23rd, he's unfortunately got a stop-go penalty. These are guys that do real life racing, but transitioning to sim racing is a totally different ball game. The guys put in so many hours. You've got to trust what you feel in your hands and what you see on a screen. Some guys going right into the point of triple screens, running VR, trying to immerse themselves and get more of that you know, that whole run. So it is a very difficult thing, and I take my hat off to everyone that's able to do sim racing at this effect, because I will be brutally honest, if I have to do a bit of, you know, climb back into these cars, I would be an AM safety car, no, not even, medical car driver at this point. The guys are putting in some fantastic effort here, and then we can see how close they're able to run with one another. And I just want to point out, you know, this is where the guys have to, you know, they run so close, they also have to trust one another to the point of know where the guys are going to brake, and if you're going to make a move, for the person not to just decide to yeet you off the other side of the circuit, so, you know, or lick it and send it. There's a lot of trust that goes into it, and that's one thing I'm amazed with. We're racing all around the country. You got the likes of Philip Minnaar, who could be in Pretoria, Christopher Radloff down in East London, you know, all going and having a great run with one another over the internet, but still trust each other that if they're racing in real life, you would trust that person not to go and break your 5 million, 6 million rand car that's, you know, you're currently circular, you're going around the circuit.
So go ahead.
Also what some of the guys are doing, and then I tend to do, is if I gain on the car in front of me, or I'm in a close battle in the car in front of me, I tend to study that car for a lap or two. Where is he braking? What lines is he following? Where is he slow? Where is he quick? So it takes a couple of laps of studying the car in front, and then you know where you can attack that car, and you start to know where that car will be braking for the next corner.
Kieran Patterson in a bit of a tussle here, trying everything he can to catch up onto the likes of Bego Krobler. Bego very, very good at defense, but Kieran is not known to hold back at any point. He will really push the boundaries, and you can see how late he is braking into the bottom end of Imola, now onto the straight. This is where you want to get into the toe, tuck up nice and neat behind the car in front of you as you're aiming for turn one, and hopefully not to just send it too hard into turn one. But right behind them though, we've got our lovely Mercedes of Philip Minnaar, who's just cruising around waiting for it. Ooh, having to take evasive action there, and that was the pucker effect coming into play. Philip Minnaar going and late on the brake. I think he went and, yeah, that was it. Just had to swallow the brake pedal at that point, because it went through his foot and started traveling upwards.
And you see how much it hurt him coming out of that chicane, how much drive he's lost, and he's fallen back just by making one simple mistake.
Yeah, and now Nkube is even very close to him. So yeah, it's, you pay the price when you make those mistakes. But Kieran Patterson really putting a tremendous amount of pressure here on Johan Bego Krobler. Let's see how he handles it.
Kieran just takes a look to that inside. He's a little bit more comfortable. You can see the Audi is sitting more than happy to go over the curbs. Does take a look on the inside, rather tucks back in the toe. Looks once again, but unfortunately a too far follow through. This is a bit of the section is a bit of follow the leader. You can't really go too much on the attack, otherwise you may land up with both cars going into the wall. But Bego Krobler under some serious pressure, trying to soak it up. And you can see Kieran hunting him down, looking left and right, trying to find that kink in the armor and see where he can blast by as they make their way through. So Kieran, once again, now very, very close to Bego. And this is where it gets a little bit more stressful, as your competitor has the slipstream, you punching a hole in the air, and your competitor can take it nice and
going
easy.
defensive
Bego goes
there.
to the middle of the circuit.
got the inside line. He's taken the defensive line. Let's see what happens here.
A little bit
Right,
of rubbing
very
his
good.
racing. Can't argue with that. And Kieran just going and giving a little bit of a love kiss there. You can share a bit of paintwork. Yellow flags out though, as it looks like one of the BMs parking it in the weeds. And that's rather unfortunate. Kieran trying to go on the outside, but you can see
I'll try the
Philip
switch
Minard
there.
back
Yeah.
on the attack.
And now we have a nice little three-way battle going.
This is where it gets tricky, guys. You guys have been in this situation far too much. You playing piggy in the middle.
Yeah.
What would be the strategy at this point? Doe, give us your thoughts.
This is probably the toughest position to have in any race, where you are so close to the guy in front, almost passing him, and then you've got this guy behind you now that wants to pass you as well. I mean, it's this is seat of the pants type of driving that you do here. This is when you start sweating. Your hands become very sweaty, and this is when you finish a race and your wife asks you, what the hell were you doing? Looks like you've taken a shower. It's these types of racing moments that causes that.
When you start smelling yourself. Janneman, give us your thoughts.
I actually went quiet there because, as Doe was going through those in-car shots or on-car shots, I was just sitting there amazed how closely these guys can race. As I believe there, it's Kieran
dropping
going
in.
into the pits.
Yeah.
So Kieran going into the pits to complete one of his mandatory stops. That's allowed Bago to get a little bit of breathing room, even for a short little time, as Philip Minard still putting on a hard charge in that Mercedes, trying to slow down as much as possible. And this is one thing you got to point out, is the Mercedes has quite a bit of rotation for a front engine vehicle. That engine actually not over the front axle, it's a little bit closer to the driver, and it behaves more like a mid-engine car. So for Imola, it seems to be a very, very tail-happy car, but you're able to run over those curbs a lot easier than the Audis. And that's what's being seen. He's able to brake a bit later, get onto those curbs and not get thrown off. And it's allowed him to pull onto the back of Bago Krobler quite quickly.
Yeah, and something I wanted to just add, seeing Kieran dropping into the pits there for his second stop, I think it would be. Interesting strategy, I think. I've got a theory on that. You saw how hard he was racing Bago there. And I think this is what people need to understand about GT racing. It's not always about passing the guy in front. It's very often about just putting a tremendous amount of pressure on that guy, getting him to make a mistake. Maybe he spins the car, puts it into a wall. That will take him completely out of the race, right? So, in GT racing, it's not always about passes, but just putting that pressure on the guy in front of you.
And also about the strategy. I mean, maybe Kieran felt that he was losing too much time. He himself was also getting pressure from behind, as we see Minard diving into the pits there. So that decision from Kieran to pit might have also been a strategy change to get him out of the sandwich there.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'd be very interested to see when Bago goes into the pits here, because maybe he's running that strategy I mentioned, where it's a long middle stint.
Oh, that's it. It's going to be an interesting one indeed. You don't want to be the meat in the sandwich. You don't want to be the meat on the spit fry at that point. But the guys are really having to try and figure out what they can do. Christopher Radloff, though, in 7th place at the moment, has completed all his pit stops. So he's in a net first, as the guys would put it. But let's see what he'll be able to do. Ryan Otten's in 1st place. Barkhazen in 2nd. JW Falschlenk in 3rd. Cody Sheraton 4th. Bago Krobler in 5th. Morgan Mccall in 6th place, followed by Jason McGregor in 7th. 8th place is Rayner, followed by Justin Lotus. And we've also got LaRue in 10th place, having a bit of fun out there. So top 10 having a good run, but Christopher Radloff, who's in a good bit of run there.
Yeah, sorry, Stephen, as you spoke, I just saw Kieran there taking a bit wide of an exit. I believe it was out of the Villeneuve chicane, or no, sorry, that was out of Timborello, and maybe losing a bit of time there, so that might have spoiled his undercut a bit.
And that's the different little things that you have to worry about is losing that time, dropping a wheel off a circuit, getting a little bit uncomfortable in your drive. You're now starting to smell yourself, and you also start taking a little bit of risk. And this is where fatigue comes in. A lot of guys tend to think, oh, sim racing, you don't get any fatigue. How can you get it? You're not going any G-forces. Well, folks, to give you an understanding, you are staring at a flickering screen. So you are taking eye strain as you go on. So the guys are having to deal with that. They're also running pedals, from standard G29 pedals that you put a kilo of force on the brake pedal and you bottom it out. So guys running 200 kilogram load cells. That requires you to put in roughly, to slow these cars down, you're going to have to put in about 80 psi, 75 psi of force to compress that pedal enough to slow the car down. And I mean, that's something insane. The guys are also running all sorts of steering wheels. You've got your G29s, as I mentioned, or your G27s, which have 1.6 Newton meters of force. Doesn't sound like much. It's pretty much like moving just dragging your jacket on the ground. But you run into guys running direct drives that are getting a little bit more feel from the sim. They're getting more information, and those guys are running to 16 Newton meters, right up to about 25 Newton meters, where their arms feel like they want to fall off at the end of the race. And just to get as much feel of the sim, also a little bit more immersion in as well. So the guys are having to deal with different levels of fatigue, mental fatigue and physical fatigue, in a stationary seat. And I don't think anyone understands of being in a stationary seat. You start to have to get a little bit more comfortable. Your back gets a little bit sore, and you'll notice a lot of guys tend to move in their seats a little bit to try and get a little bit more comfort out of them. But this is the different parts of sim racing that guys tend to forget about. And when you're in a close battle like we have seen with Eric Costain at this point, with Philip Minnaar on the back of him, you start feeling it more and more as time goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after an hour and 20 minutes, for some of these guys, it would have been equivalent to a good session in the gym. I mean, I've gotten out of my rig literally where I can't feel my legs. It honestly felt like it was leg day in the gym, because you're constantly on the brake or constantly on off throttle. I mean, your right foot are doing thousands of inputs during the course of a race like this.
Morgan Mccall putting a lot of pressure here on Johan Krobler now, Bago. So I think he still needs to pit, Bago. So
both of them still need to do one more pit stop.
Okay.
So both running a long stint here, and the pit window, only 22 minutes for that pit window to be open. So they've got to really start thinking when is the right time to go in the pits. But Morgan Mccall on a charge at this point with that Mercedes, tucking up right into the back of Bago. Bago now once again feeling the pressure and going, what do I need to do to get some breathing room here? Goes on the defensive, but Morgan gets a little bit squirrely, does take a big look on the inside, trying to see where he can suss out where to go. Now there's also the back markers come into play, or we say back markers, these guys are still putting in some fantastic times out there. This is our pro division, is the cream of the crop, ladies and gentlemen. You can't get any faster than these guys unless you're an alien, and these guys are part alien, so Area 51 is looking for the majority of these drivers at this moment.
Bago making a small mistake there. Yeah.
And that's allowed Bago to close in right to his rear bumper, but Morgan to get right out of his rear bumper, but deciding to get out of it and stay behind him as they go through Aqua Minerale one more time. And getting a better drive out of the corner there. I wonder if he's going to have a look into the last chicane.
Yeah, but I want to say that it looks like the Mercedes is running out of steam on the straights.
I noticed that, and we spoke about that earlier in the race, and I'm starting to wonder if he's not running a higher downforce setup that hinders him a bit on those straights, but gives him better corner speed and corner exit.
Which
I mean, he looks a lot more He looks a lot more planted through this last section, but then let's see what happens through the next straight. It doesn't seem like he can make an impact on the straight though.
No.
Got to get nice and close, and unfortunately, as you guys pointed out, running out of steam. That allows Bago Krobler to try and open up that gap, but unfortunately, Bago has to brake a little bit earlier, and that allows Morgan to just close down that gap once again, and playing a little bit of a seesaw effect at this point. And you can be sure both drivers starting to feel the frustration. As you can see, Morgan once again very, very close, does look to the inside, has to tap on the brakes just ever so slightly, not to run into the back of Bago. But the frustration comes in of what do you need to do to try and get past. And
and there's a little bit of contact.
Yeah, and Bago also made a mistake there. I think that's what caused the contact, unfortunately.
But it definitely looks like Morgan is quicker through the twisty bits.
Very much so, especially this sector over here. You can see the Mercedes very strong. And then again, as soon as they go up the straights, the Audi just pulls away under him.
Now, I also tend to run a higher downforce setup, and the whole reasoning behind that is to make yourself quicker through the corners. And if you can pull away through the corners from the car behind you, you can. The theory is you can pull a large enough gap so that when you hit the straight, he cannot slipstream and pass you again. I say the theory, it doesn't always work in my case anyway.
Yeah, I think the issue with Imola though is obviously with the long start finish straight. You know, it kind of gets offset every time. So there's obviously sector 2 and 3 is quite twisty, but this particular straight over here is just so long.
So we won't see the end of that battle as Morgan has dived into the pits.
Yeah, and I'm assuming Bago's going to have to pit in the next 2 to 3 laps.
Yeah, so what Morgan is now trying to do is he's trying to go for the undercut, maybe get a good outlap, and by the time Bago gets out of the pits, he will be in front of him.
As he comes in, Cody Sherritt is leaving the pits, I see.
So Q, Doe, Herber going and sending Bago a SMS saying, listen mate, you're running out of time, yeah? You need to pit. As the sister team looks to try and do the long run, but whether it works or not, gonna be a little bit difficult. But Cody Sherritt now into that net first place. He's done enough to maintain his position. Morgan Mccall would be in second place now that he's done his pit stop. So right behind would be Christopher Radloff, Philip Minnar, and Kieran Patterson. If we work out everyone that has done their pit stops in this race, and not many drivers need to go into the pits to try and get their fuel stops done. But as Wes said, the Audi's straight line speed is OP. Yes, they forgot to put the bricks back in the car because the Audi has been one of those things. That's definitely that V10 really knows how to run the bunny. Then you got going for the undercuts. Yep, that is definitely the case. You got to try and see where you can make up as much time as possible. Undercut, overcut, go for it. It's pretty much like going to the hairdresser. Do you want too much of a cut or do you want just right? It's a bit of a gamble at this point.
As we see the entire Hybrid Academy team is going to be dropping into the pits now. So they're obviously all on the same strategy here.
So a bit of team communication of maybe we should hit the pits now because we tend to be the ones left out at this point. So Bago into the pits. He's now looking to go out. JW Volskink looking to also go out and keep ahead. Will it be enough to keep ahead of Bago Krobler, who's right behind? Yes, just managing to get out. So Volskink more than happy to keep up the charge. And that puts him into... put him into the net first at the moment. But he's got a charging down Cody Sherritt right behind, and also Bago Krobler is going to be exiting the pits now to try and last past as well. So it is going to be a very, very interesting run down to the line.
Yeah, for those who have done their pit stops, this has now effectively become a sprint race. It's now a drive for the line. Strategies are done. You've got your track position, and Now you need to fight for your position. We still have Barkhuis and Ottens and McGregor that needs to do. I see Barkhuis in second position, still needs to do 2 pit stops according to the timesheets.
Yeah, he's out there for a very long first stint.
He's just dropped down.
I think
to one.
he's just pitted now. Yeah.
Yeah, so he still has 1 more pit stop to do. But for the rest, the men in green, as we can say, they now need to drive for the line.
Yeah, hold my beer, watch this moment as we're going to see the guys go. Kieran Patterson already hunting down, looking to try and get by, not wanting to get slowed down by the likes of Christopher Radloff, who's been doing an absolutely bang-up job. Put in the fastest lap time of the race, and you can get out for that place, but you can see Kieran is really on a hard charge now.
Yeah, there was some contact behind from Kieran. And side by side as they go out of a little bit of contact again, but side by side all the way down the pit straight, and that's allowed the car behind, which is Minnow, I believe, to pick up a nice little slipstream there. Double slipstream for him.
Who's going to break
fast?
Who's going to break later? And it looks like Patterson just able to. Minnow gives him a slight touch. So Minnow, unfortunately, just accelerating Kieran Patterson just past that brake marker, and that has allowed Kieran Patterson to, got him onto the dirt and get by. But unfortunately, Christopher Radloff, though, losing so much time and now feeling a huge amount of pressure. Kirstein coming by, looking to keep up the charge as well. So Kirstein getting by. Oh, I mean, this is where Radloff is going to be eating ever so slightly. Dropping so far back off the likes of Kieran Patterson and Minnow, but Morgan McCall, is going after the likes of Kirstein, so looking left and right, trying to join up with the teammates up ahead, and you can just see how hard Morgan's really having to push to get that car right up to the top, and battling it out tooth and nail at this point. Once again, Piggy in the middle has to try and figure out a way to get by, and as you guys pointed out, the worst position to be in because you're watching both your mirrors and your front windscreen.
Yeah, exactly, and we'll see what that Mercedes does down the straight now, because it's not up against the Audi, it's now up against the BMW and the BMW behind it. So will it be able to stay in front of that BMW behind it? But it has got a little bit of assistance of a tow from the BMW in front, but not really making an impact down the straight again.
Now I'm going to chuck it back to you guys here. Doe, I mean, you got Ryan Ottens, Barkhuizen, McGregor, Stradham, LaRue, Eric Kirstein, who's up ahead in this little battle, all needing to pit still. Going very late here with 12 minutes left of the pit window, 16 minutes left of the race. Would you start to worry a little bit of maybe they've pushed it too far to the detriment of their race and not for a positive outcome?
Yeah, I mean, like we discussed earlier around the different ways that you run the strategy, I think it's a matter of, it's first race of the season. The guys are experimenting with different strategies to understand, which one would work the better for the rest of the season, possibly. Because obviously they tried something last season, didn't work, so maybe mixing it up this season to see. But yeah, I think first race of the season is a bit of an experiment for a lot of these teams.
Track temperature down to 30 degrees, so the guys have got a nice racy toasty circuit, but at this point haven't seen guys change their tires all too much. So what now comes to the question is, what is the tire degradation looking like? Because going and swapping out your tires, you're looking at close on to a minute in the pits, and a lot of these guys decided they're not going to wait that time. They're going to try and just fuel and go, but the tire degradation is going to come into effect. Gentlemen, what do you think about this as you're driving? You're going to pick up oversteer and understeer, and things are going to become a little bit more unpredictable for the drivers.
Well, we know you can double stint, as we used to call it now. Double stinting in an endurance aspect is running 2 full tanks of fuel on a set of tires. We know you can do that, but the tires tend to go through different phases. We say, the tires go away from you, and that's where you start picking up, as you mentioned, understeer, especially on corner entry, and then you also can pick up oversteer on corner exit. So you might have to be a little bit more gingerly on the throttle, if you want to put it that way. But there comes a phase where it feels like they come back to you a bit again, and when you can start pushing again. Now, these guys are running incredible pace, and there's definitely going to be degradation. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't see quickest laps being put up in the last 13 or so minutes left in the race.
Something interesting I'm noticing is Ryan's still out there with Ryan Ottens with one pit stop to go, but he's got a gap between him and Cody Sherritt of about 48 seconds. So I think it's going to be pretty close when he comes out of the pits, actually.
Yes, and you've reached the stage of the race where you're not going to change tires. You're going to live with these tires for the rest of the race. You're not going to chuck new tires on now. So that is going to be a close one. Sean Stradom has gone into the pits there.
So I'm watching very closely when Ryan will be pitting. I think that's when we'll see this race come alive again.
Well, I'm going to ask you a bit of a math question, guys, and without pulling out calculators, okay? 4.9 kilometers, 38 laps. How many kilometers do you think Ryan Ottens has done, or most of the field has done?
I have no idea, Stephen, but I'm sure you've worked it out.
150, 100. I'm going to go for about 170 kilometers.
Close, but no cigar. 186.2.
I told you I wasn't good at math.
Well, you were close. And if you're a betting man, you would have lost. Doe would have actually won the prize by saying someone else has worked it out. So 186 kilometers done. And I mean, guys, we talk about this. In a virtual space, you're still, all your inputs, you're still running that. You can't, get rid of how many kilometers the guys have done. 186 kilometers is a tremendous amount of pace that the guys have done. So really hats off to all the sim racers that have been sticking it out for this time, but Ryan Otten's running it right down to the line, and it's going to be, I don't know, hey, it's going to be difficult, but maybe he kept those tires enough, he's worked it out and got enough of a gap between himself and Volschnink, even to the likes of Barkhuizen and McGregor at this point, to maintain that position. I don't know. I'm not going to put my cards on the table just yet.
I notice him and Cody are pretty much doing the same lap times as well at the moment, 1:42.6.
Which, I mean, it's blindingly speedy. And you think of the guys have been doing that, and they've been doing it well over an hour now, hour and 10 minutes nearly of just nose-to-tail racing and putting in some fantastic times. It really makes you take a step back and go, hang on, what do I need to do to try and improve my times? Or do I get a little bit more comfortable? Do I just try and let the race come to me? At this situation, guys, if you were in the likes of Volschnink's shoes, or Sherritt, or Kieran Patterson, Philip Milner, Morgan Mccall, and the list can go on. 10 minutes and 24 seconds left of the race. Would you guys get a little bit more comfortable of where you are? Or would you try to push that fraction harder to chase it down? The like of Ryan Ottens.
The interesting thing is we have Javier Volschnink sitting in front of Cody now, who is a team, and Javier is the teammate of Ryan Ottens, right? So could we be seeing a bit of, just keeping Cody at bay and letting Ottens, stretch that gap before he has to pit? Because right now the gap has grown from what was it, 38 seconds? It's now close to almost 50 seconds, that gap. So I think we're seeing some team strategy at play here.
Yeah, there might have been a message that was sent out to say, don't exactly open the door for him.
Just keep it nice and clean here. But I think it's going to be a very, very interesting, as you brought up, team strategy can come into play. The guys having to work a fraction harder. And I've actually just jumped onto to Volsnik's stream, and you can see that he is stressing a little bit. He's watching those review mirrors, he's watching his inputs, trying not to push it a little bit too far. And he's really trying everything possible to keep up the pace.
Yeah, Ottens is in the pits, so let's see where he comes out and what position. And then we've only got McGregor left to do his last pit stop.
Let's see how this pans out now. Where is Cody? He's coming down, yeah?
One thing we haven't mentioned yet is the pit exit at Imola is quite interesting, because you basically sit onto the racing line, but you're not up to speed yet.
And I think Ryan has done that move.
Yeah, there they are behind him.
Now it's about getting that pace and trying to keep ahead. This is where Ryan has got to give it all or nothing at this point to try and break away, because he's getting hunted down by second and third place, who are not going to make it easy at this point.
Yeah, and the tires would have, cooled down a bit during the pit stop, and so the car is going to be squirmy for the first lap or so.
But I think that was a master play in terms of strategy that he did there. He really, really did that very, very cleverly.
Well, I have to take my hats off. And bad news for Eric Kirstein, getting a drive-through penalty, and especially this late into the race. That is really like kicking your pinky toe up against a table. It just hurts and hurts and hurts.
Yeah, that's pretty much your race done right there. I mean, it's a horrible feeling when you're driving through that pit lane and you just hear the cars coming past you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Now that drive through obviously due to track limits.
And that's actually something we're going to talk about. I mean, the final stages, the guys are worn out. They've dipping a wheel a little bit too far over. They're getting track limit warnings, or maybe they've got that final warning. And now the pressure comes in of you can't do something wrong, otherwise it's going to hurt. I mean, we saw Eric Kirstein, who was way up the field not so long ago, now unfortunately dropping all the way back to 22nd. And take a look at Volsnik under some serious pressure. Cody dives up and goes around on the outside, and
Cody doing a very good pass there. Actually, the pass was done there on the outside, and unfortunately, Evia going a little bit off track there. Let's have a look at that again.
Let's break it down, folks, as we take a look at Cody getting into the slipstream, really drawing close, and now trying to figure out where he can go. Goes on the outside, late on the brakes. You can see forces JW Volsnik into a problem, a little bit right on the curves, a slight touch, but not necessary to throw you way off course. Unfortunately, Volsnik going and catching the car, which tells me that the ABS is the traction control is a little bit down, and small pushes like that can cause the car to slide a little bit more than planned. So unfortunately, that has thrown him a little bit further down the field where he didn't want to be. But Cody on a hard charge now for Ryan Ottens, and you can be sure that Volsnik has communicated, Cody's past me, go buddy, go.
I mean, I agree with Doe. That was an excellent pass. Something else I noticed there was a car leaving the pit lane, so he did not have all the racetrack to work with approaching that first corner.
Cody now trying to get round some of the field. You can see blue flags up, which means you got to go and yield the position, let the guys go, and then continue with your race. And if for any of you guys that have raced as back markers, that's where you're watching your review mirrors like no tomorrow, because these guys will send it because they want to try and go for those first places. So you have to have a bit of respect both sides in terms of being the faster car and the back marker to ensure that both of you can get by comfortably and not have your race too badly impact. So the best thing you can do is brake a fraction earlier into the corner, which we've seen, but unfortunately the Audi going a little bit wide, that's allowed one of the Mercedes to get very, very close and look to go on the attack. But you want to try and lose as little time as possible in this.
Now closed.
And the pit lane is closed. Ryan Otten, so really giving it everything. He's got 3 minutes to go. This is where you start sweating like mad. Your hands are gripping that steering wheel and starting to bend it into a U shape because you know you can't have any mistakes at this point. And I mean, Doe, Jan, you guys have been in this situation where you just got to keep it on the circuit for the last 3 minutes. And what will go through the mind of Ryan Ottens at this point? You've taken the gamble's worked out, and now you've got the guys chasing you down. Let's start, Jan, last 3 minutes. What would be going through the driver's mind that you think would be happening?
I can tell you what I do. Forget about time and just go flat out. You stop thinking about how many laps are left, what time is left. You just take it corner by corner, and especially if you're getting chased down, try and put in those qualifying laps if you've got a clear track around you.
From my side, sweet and short, eh? All that goes on in my mind is don't beep it up.
I thought you gonna say all in your mind is the cold beer in the fridge. Drive it for the line.
Send it, risk it for the biscuit at this point.
Yeah.
Sergeant Pillay, though, first round, first race in the pro class and doing a very, very fantastic job. And lying in 11th place and in a hard charge. He's looking to try and move up to get past Van der Merwe that's just ahead of him. And Kube right behind, putting the pressure on you, and dives up the inside. And really showing that BM is more comfortable on the curbs if it really can do it. But some great tussling between Kube and Pillay at this point. Nose to tail racing between the two. And, it's time to risk it for the biscuit, boys, as they end it all the way up.
It's not easy running that close through the Villeneuve chicane.
You can fall off a circuit quicker and you can just mow the lawn. I'm sure that the John Doe mowers would be more than happy to have a BMW going and grading it.
I've mowed the lawn, I've plowed the gravel, I've reshaped the wall through that Villeneuve chicane more than once.
My experience there is I've tried to make it look like a bit of a Zen garden as well when I've gone through there.
Well, our leader is on the final lap, and Ryan Ottens 2.8 seconds ahead of Cody Sherritt, trying to make his way through. Paul Fenter just moving out the way in that big banana Bentley. But Ryan Ottens at this point needs to keep it all together. Not long now before he can say he has won round number 1. But it's not over. Cody trying everything at this point to close down that gap. You can see him in the shot there. And Paul Fenter is going to have to move out the way for a raging Sherritt that's going to be chasing down. Cody was doing so well in the last season and looking to carry that magic over to the start of season 11, round 1 here at Imola. And let's see, will he be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat? I think it is going to be a tough one. Very, very close racing. Ottens riding those curbs, doing everything possible to just try and eke out those fractions of a second. This is where you're trying to get that 2-3 extra kilometers through the corners. That when we're talking about those pucker moments, this is it. As the Ryan Ottens makes his way around, and I'm sure he's going to be a happy camper if he keeps it all the way going, but taking towards the checkered flag. First place going to Ryan Ottens after gambling it away with the pit stops. Second place will be Sherritt, and third place will be JW Volsking. What a race, guys. And wow, talk about going for a gamble and really coming off on top.
Yeah, that one paid off quite nicely for him. I mean, 15 minutes ago, we weren't even mentioning him as being a net first place.
Yeah, I think I didn't want to say anything. I was holding my breath. I think that was a master stroke in terms of strategy.
Maybe it was commentators' luck and not commentators' curse because we didn't mention it.
Well, that's it. If you avoid the commentator, that's you've already won the war. But Doe, why don't you take us through our top 10 who have completed round number 1 here at Imola for season 11 of the GT3 Championship, brought to you by Raceface.Pro.
Yeah, all right. So as the timesheets there show, Ryan Ottens finishing the race in first position in the BMW M4 GT3. We have followed very closely by Cody Sherritt, Javier Volskenk, also from Hybrid Academy. Cody driving for PWSR. So just to go back there, we have a Hybrid Academy, PWSR, Hybrid Academy, making up the top 3 spots there. Kieran Patterson again for PWSR, Philip Minnar, Morgan McCall, Chris Radloff, Bernard Barghazen, Johan Grobler, and M. van der Merwe. That wraps up your top 10.
46 laps done, 225 kilometers done and dusted underneath a belt, and what a race it has been. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this is what Raceface is. This is where we bring the best of the best to duke it out. And thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, I've got to pass it over to my co-commentators. Jan, talk us through what's going through your mind. You've just seen the fastest of the fast duke it out, and some proper gambling moves there.
Yeah, you mentioned that the race was an hour and 20 minutes. It felt like a 45-minute sprint race to me. I mean, it was non-stop action. I mean, a lot of races you get where after half an hour or so the field tends to spread a bit, and you'll find little battles going on, and big gaps building up. But there was almost none of that. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, we were watching 3, 4, 5 car battles, develop, and the field staying so close. And going back to what we said earlier, I mean, we were talking about net first place and so forth, and all of a sudden things changed again in the last couple of minutes, and the gap to second place to Sherritt wasn't even that big. I mean, I think that's awesome after an hour and 20 minutes worth of racing.
And Doe, any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I would just also like to say that honestly, this has been one of the best races I've seen in a long time at Raceface. We did some of the stewarding and things last season, and to just echo what Janneman has just said, that generally you find with these races, the guys start spreading out after the first 30 minutes or so. Race can become sometimes a little boring, but I think we have literally got the best of the best now in this pro division, and that's why. And and I think we could see it right from the word go with the qualifying, having your top 20 drivers being split by less than 1 second. I think we called it. It was going to be a tight race, and it was very entertaining.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you enjoyed the racing, and come and join our Discord of Raceface.Pro. Look us up if you want to come and join in the action. We've got 1,000 drivers in the community, all going and having fun on Assetto Corsa Competizione and many, many more different sims. Lots coming out. And we would also like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Raceface.Pro, Shop, Resource Complete, Go Setups, 95, and Speed Labs. And we've also got to go and give a shout out to you guys on the streams. Big thank you for joining us. And we can't wait to see what's going to happen whereas we head to Indianapolis next week, Thursday. And make sure you also catch the sprint races that's on the Wednesday to go and enjoy it as well. But Indianapolis, folks, don't want to miss it. It is the home for the Indy 500, and where our drivers will be testing out the new DLC to Assetto Corsa Competizione. Who's going to climb on top? Only time will tell. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stephen Koenig, and we've got Janneman Price also known as Janneman Prius, for anyone that wants to have that. And Joe Gerber, also being our broadcaster and co-commentator. Can't wait to see you guys next time.
And Nemesis
From
on
my
a
side,
racetrack.
cheers.
Yeah, and just to add
Thank
to
you,
it, just to wrap up on also Stephen, this Saturday we will be having the Raceface.Pro Endurance Series being held at Suzuka. That's on Saturday. So yeah, if you haven't had enough racing yet, this weekend endurance racing at Suzuka. See you guys. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.